Today we're going to talk about Chapter 2, Ethics and the Responsible Speaker. We will go over communicating ethically, why ethics matter, ethical pitfalls, principles of ethical speaking, and avoiding plagiarism. So the big thing with ethics is that you're creating trust between you, the speaker, and the audience. If the speaker doesn't trust what you're saying, if they do not feel that you're a trustworthy individual, then I don't think that your presentation will be effective. So why does ethics matter? So let's look at what is ethics. So ethics comes from the Greek word ethos, and ethos essentially means character and habit. So if ethics can be defined as the principles that govern people's actions or as habitual moral behavior. So essentially, an ethical person is someone that exhibits moral behavior over a long period of time or habitually. So you can't decide that every once in a while you're going to do the right thing and be an ethical person. You have to do it consistently over a long period of time, habitually. It's a habit for you. So ethics matters because you're doing the right thing. It's the right thing to do. It enhances your effectiveness because that makes you a trustworthy presenter, and it safeguards your reputation. So there are ethical pitfalls as a presenter. So when you're giving a presentation, it is pretty easy, especially with persuasive presentations, to misrepresent your information. Sometimes if people are so passionate about their side, they find ways to manipulate the information that they make their side look so good and the opposing side look so ridiculously bad that they're misrepresenting the whole thing, and they're essentially, that leads to lying about their topic. So your goal is to provide your research in a way that it's not unrealistic to the reality of life and of the topic, so that the audience member does see the topic for what it is. Because typically, if you're giving a speech, there are going to be people that agree with you and some that don't. If you present a topic in a way that's so extreme and ends up more lying and misrepresenting, then those that don't agree with you are never going to agree with you. But if you do it in a way that is factual, that is research-based, that is logical, and you're providing the very best information possible in an ethical way, you very well may get some of those people that don't agree with you to consider at least your side. So your goal as an ethical speaker is to avoid harm, to promote good, and to have a good quality relationship between you and your audience so that they know that they can trust you because you're providing the very best information that you possibly can in an honest way. So sometimes speakers, though, they provide biased information. They let their personal beliefs shape everything because they feel so specific about a topic that they don't provide any neutrality in the information. When you go and research a topic, you can find very biased information. If you're giving a speech, for instance, over abortion or gun control, there are tons of websites for people that specifically are pro-life or specifically are for the NRA. So you can find those people's research, but is that biased research? But you can also find information from other sources that is neutrally composed. So it's better to provide information from neutral sources about your topic so that your audience knows you didn't go to a pro-life site to provide your information about your pro-life topic. You provided neutral information to explain why you feel like your choice is the best. Or you provided why you don't think gun control needs to be as strict not from the NRA website, but from neutral websites to provide crime research. So that is the best way to do it. You have to respect the audience, and you have to consider the difference between advocacy and bias. Advocacy means presenting a strong case for your perspective or leading your audience towards a change in a belief or an action. And biased sometimes is just tweaking that information a little too much towards your side. Other ethical pitfalls are poorly reasoned speech, where you have a lack of support, you have weak research, and you have inappropriate research that may not be valid. So principles of an ethical speaker: you're honest, open. So what does open mean? Do you have a specific motivation for making an audience? Do you have a direct personal experience with the issue? Open communicators ensure that their audience understand that their motivations for talking about an issue are clear. Less ethical communicators sometimes are selective about what they reveal about their motives. So are you open with your audience about why you're choosing this topic and why you're passionate about it? Are you generous with your audience? Ethical public speakers require that you place the audience interest above your own. You should use your speaking time for the good of the whole as opposed to just pushing your agenda. Are you a generous speaker? Are you balanced? Do you acknowledge that there is another side of the issue and you give some time to acknowledging that? Sometimes it is important to do that, to provide the other side and then provide a counter argument to that. It is important sometimes to provide a balanced presentation with both sides. Are you fair? When you cite evidence, do you make sure that it is fair, that you are providing good total information? Are you risky? Do you take appropriate risk? Risk in public speaking include building relationships, taking stand on issues, and giving your audience information that helps them think differently about a topic. Are you engaging? Do you have a charismatic presentation? Do you engage with your audience? Do they find you interesting? So, are you an engaging presenter? So how to avoid plagiarism? Of course, you want to make sure that you never plagiarize a speech. And plagiarism is the act of using the language, ideas, or arguments of another person without giving the person proper credit. Several of the 7 principles we just discussed offer strong ethical reasons for avoiding plagiarism. Plagiarism is not honest. Plagiarism does not respect the spirit of openness. It is not generous, and it does not represent your evidence responsibly. So we want to be careful with plagiarism. It's very easy to plagiarize. I know that. It's also very easy to catch plagiarism. So do be very careful with your speeches and make sure that you use your own words. I would rather not have a perfect speech than to have it be very clear that you did not write your speech. So do be very clear with that. So sometimes there's this, be careful with dishonesty. Sometimes there's blatant and plagiarism. If you find a speech online and you read it and you claim it to be your own, that clearly would be failing the assignment. Sometimes you uncredit or borrow quotes or facts or figures and you sprinkle them in your speech, but you do not ever cite them. All of these things should be put in your bibliography. If you use a quotation in the speech, you must say where it came from when you quote it, and you must cite it in your bibliography. Many times you paraphrase, students may paraphrase things or make minor modifications. Speakers do this because it's easier to paraphrase an idea than to create an original one. So be very careful of that. Appropriating ideas. All public speeches will borrow ideas from other people's work to some extent, and this is actually one of the great benefits of public speaking. However, there's a risk if you introduce into your speech an idea that you wouldn't have come to on your own. You must give credit to the source where you found the idea. When it comes to plagiarism, you have a choice: giving credit or inappropriately taking someone else's words or ideas or arguments. When in doubt, give credit. Chapter 6 describes how to take good notes as you research your topic, so you won't forget to misplace critical information. Give credit to every quotation, statistic, and argument you use in your speech. Provide complete citation information in your bibliography. The bottom line is that you will use a variety of different materials which will influence your speech in some way. If you give proper credit to these sources, you will advance your case with rigor and strength. You will act generously, and you will give the audience the chance to engage with your materials. If you don't give proper credit, you're engaging in intellectual version of stealing, and your speech, your credibility, your ethos, and your character will suffer. So creating ethical speeches, you must respect your audience, you must respect your topic, and you must use a broad set of sources with credible arguments and differing perspectives. Highlight shared commitments, show best case alternatives, and clearly outline their differences. And avoid fallacies in appeals. So avoid name calling. Name calling is sticking a label on people or ideas that prejudges them as good or bad. Glittering generalities, which connects a person, an idea, or a thing to an abstract concept, whether positive or negative. Inappropriate testimonials, relies on goodwill toward a celebrity rather than expertise. Plain folk appeals, pretending to identify with the audience, tendency to avoid complexity or unfamiliar ideas is a plain folk appeal. Card stacking, which uses evidence selectively to prove a point, especially by allowing one or two extreme examples to stand in for a whole range of evidence. And bandwagoning, arguing that everyone believes or is doing something in an attempt to get the audience to get on the bandwagon. Ethics matters. If the audience doesn't trust you, then everything you're saying is for naught. You have to create trust with your audience. You have to make sure that you cite all the sources that you're using, and you have to be respectful of your audience. Think about the speech topics that you're using, especially if you're in the in-person class. Be thoughtful of the topics that you're choosing. Remember that you have a captive audience, and so make sure to be sensitive with the topics that you choose.